Hey guys, I'm Brianna, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm doing my April wrap up, and I'm sorry I've been just all over the place. I have been super busy and it's just crazy, guys. Yeah, and I have APs coming up in the next 2 weeks, so you probably will not hear from me, but as soon as those are over, I can literally post whenever I want because I don't have any homework. But yeah, so I read 28 books this month, which is really good. I was not expecting that. And I'm going to start with my ebooks / books I don't own first. And I'm not going to go into too much detail with them. I'll probably just say the author and the genre. So first I read Blind Date by Bella Jewell. I gave this a 3.5 out of 5, and it's kind of a romantic thriller. And I knew who the killer was right away. It was very, you knew who it was, pretty much. Then I read Corrupt by Penelope Douglas. I gave this a 3 out of 5, and I felt so bad doing this because Jess from Peace Love Books loves this book and literally recommends it to everyone. And I wanted to try it, and it just slapped for me. It's a dark romance, but personally, after reading the Hates Hangman series and a lot of other dark romance books, this book, there were just a lot of dark elements that could have happened and were foreshadowed that they were supposed to happen, but they didn't. So she did a complete 180, and I just didn't really like that, so that's why I gave it a 3 out of 5. And then I read Shatter Me, Unravel Me, and Ignite Me, which I gave 3 out of 5s, by Tahara Mafi. These are dystopian books. Then I read It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, which I gave a 4 out of 5. This is a reread, and it's a romance book. Oh, and guys, I will be going to the Sunday BookCon this year in New York City. So if you guys are there, let me know. I'd love to meet up with you. Let me know what's happening. Unfortunately, I won't be there Saturday just because I have some family stuff going on, but I'm definitely going Sunday, and I'm so happy. Next, I read 3 AM Kisses by Addison Moore. I gave this a 2 out of 5. Honestly, it reminded me of a failed Lifetime movie. I just don't. It was supposed to be a college romance. It just wasn't it wasn't good. Then I read Delicate Ink by Carrie Ann Ryan. I gave this a 3 out of 5. It's a tattoo shop romance, I guess. It was good. It wasn't anything special. It was just a quick read. Then I read Captive Beauty by Natasha Knight. I gave this a 2 out of 5. It's a dark romance, but honestly, the plot was very, confusing, and it just wasn't really wrapped up the right way, and I just didn't like it. Then I read On the Line by Liz Lincoln by 4 out of 5, and NetGalley gave me an arc of this book. I think it's supposed to come out today, which is May 1st, I think. I got it back in April. And this is a single dad football romance, and this was so cute. I gave it a 4 out of 5. It was just adorable. The daughter was so cute. There was a lot of cosplay involved and superheroes and all that. It was just adorable. Nice quick read, and it was just nice to see that side of things. Then I read Rookie Move, Hard Hitter, and Pipe Dreams by Serena Bowen. I gave them a 4 out of 5. They're all hockey romances. They were good. I like to read them. I feel like nothing special came from them, but they were just nice reads. Then I read Sweet Southern Trouble by Michelle Summers, and I loved that book. Absolutely loved that book. It was so good. And it follows an NFL coach, which I thought was actually really interesting, because normally you see the players, and I love the players, don't get me wrong, but to see a coach, and he was super young at that, so I thought that was really cool. And it's definitely a slow burn romance, so if you like that, you'll love that book. Then I read Rescuing the Receiver by Rachel Goodman, 4.5 out of 5. Freaking phenomenal, so good. Just so good. So the NFL team's owner's niece is the dog shelter's owner. So one of the players is sent there to volunteer at the dog shelter because of stuff that happened, and it was just so good because 1, dogs are involved, 2, it's football, and 3, it was a romance. So everything I would want in a book. It was just so freaking good. I loved it so much. Then I read The Hooker and the Hermit by L.H. Causeway and Penny Reed. I gave this a 4 out of 5. It was a rugby romance. It was pretty good. Yeah, I gave it a 4 just because the writing I really liked, but the characters were okay. They could use a little bit more developing, but overall they were good. Then I read Double the Ache by Alexa Riley. I gave this a 3 out of 5. It was good. It was so short, and I really hate short books sometimes, even novellas I hate, just because they're so short and you're expecting something so much longer and the plot doesn't have time to develop, the characters don't have time to develop, and overall it just wasn't the best book, but it was entertaining. And then I read I Dare You by, it's either Isla or Isla Madden Mills. I give this a 3 out of 5. I was very disappointed. This was, if you didn't know, this was one of my most anticipated books. It was supposed to be a football romance, but it was more a college romance. And the length of the book, I was very surprised. Like, it just wasn't that long, and the plot development wasn't that good. I felt it was very jumpy. There were no football scenes. It took place in the off-season, and it just wasn't the best. Like, I was expecting so much more with what she said, but it just, nothing happened. Like, I feel like literally nothing happened in the book. I felt like it was like, oh, so sad, and then, oh my god, yay. It just wasn't like, wow, this is a great book. But it gave a sample to Dirty English, which is another one of her books, which I think it's a fighter book, but it was like a college romance book, and that book was really good reading it, and I'll probably buy it, but I don't have money on my Kindle right now, but that book was so good. So, I don't know, maybe it was just, I don't know what to say, like, it just really upset me. And now, getting onto the books I own, which is a decent amount. I read Ash Princess by Laura Sebastian. I gave this a 4.5 out of 5. This is her first book, and this was so good. I don't know what it is, guys, but a lot of debut novels that have come out are, like, phenomenal. This is included in that. So good. I'm going to be doing a full review soon because this book definitely deserves one. And it is pretty thick. This did come out April 24th, so it is fairly new. I recommend it. It's fantasy. It's more for upper level YA, just because of the content. It's very gory and violent in it, but just so good. Like, I can't rave about it enough. Like, I really, really enjoyed reading this. And then we have Truth or Beard and Beauty and the Mustache by Penny Reed. Truth or Beard, I loved this book. Dwayne is a new book boyfriend, and these books are kind of like, they're like tattoo beard romance, I guess you could say that, because the main characters have tattoos and beards, but they're very family oriented, which I like, and they're kind of more contemporary because there is some like action in it, like if you've read contemporary compared to romance, but I loved this book. Dwayne just was everything I wanted. There was just so much I wanted in this book. Like, I love it, guys. I love it so, so, so much. And he is a co-owner to his mechanic shop, and she is a teacher who I think's in between jobs right now, and it takes place primarily during the summer, but I really, really enjoyed this book. So good. I just love this book, guys. It was really good. And then I read Beauty and the Mustache. I gave this a 4 out of 5. Oh, I gave this one a 5 out of 5, if you couldn't tell. But this one I gave a 4 out of 5, and the reason for this is just like, I felt it was more for the Knitting in the City series than the than the Winston Brothers series. This is supposed to be the prequel. Plot-wise, it definitely was the prequel because it says what happens to their mom and how Ashley's involved in all this stuff, etc., etc. But character-wise, I felt like it should have been left in the Knitting in the City series. It just wasn't really my favorite. I didn't vibe well with the characters, and I didn't have a lot in common with them. And I was expecting a lot more, but I liked that we got the background information of what happened in book 1. So it was like a solid book, I guess you could say. Then I read Wait For You by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I gave this a 5 out of 5. I updated my review. This is a college romance. Love this book. Definitely recommend it if this is something you're interested in. Then I read Misadventures of a College Girl by Lauren Rowe. I give this a 4.5 out of 5, and oh my god, guys. So hysterical. Like, I was cracking up when I was reading this book. It was just so funny. The ending I hated because there were so many time skips, and you didn't get a warning that there was a time skip. So you'd be reading it, and you'd be, like, so confused because you were like, they're older now? Like, what's happening? But the beginning and the middle really sold it for me. I just loved it. There was a lot of football involved, which I love books with that. He is a football player, so she goes to his games, and you see the college life as well as the academic side, and it was just funny, and watching their relationship grow, and the characters were so deep. Like, Tyler, he was a fully developed character, and I loved that, because you rarely see the guys being fully developed, because their characters are kind of, like, weak and not as strong as the girl's character, but they were so even both sides. I really, really enjoyed this book. And then we have Frat Girl by Kylie Roche. I have a lot of things to say about this book. Not necessarily bad, but there are positives and negatives to this. I gave this a 4 out of 5, so I did enjoy it. My couple negatives about this book, I definitely felt it was too political. It was just way too political, and I hated Cass. Like, I just really didn't like her. She's the type of person that she has her own opinion and then judges everyone else if they don't agree with her, and she tells them they're wrong. Like, I hate those people. Like, that's one of my just, like, pet peeves. Like, I just don't like that. So that bothered me. And I also felt her actions were very predictable. So, I mean, I get it. It was part of the story, but I didn't like that. And definitely back to the political aspect, it just took away from the journey of reading this book. I felt like my political views were in this, and I think it was good to an extent because it makes you think, but it was bad because it just took away from the enjoyment of reading because I was criticizing the whole book. So I didn't really like that. And I also don't like how she's taking this as a YA book because it totally is not a YA book. It is a new adult book, definitely, because this takes place all in college. Like, it does not take place in high school, and there's so much just college activity going on that a YA reader should not read about. So I definitely think you should be 16 or older reading this book, just because there's a lot of content in it that is very, like, mature content, if that makes sense, for readers of an upper level. But getting back to the positives, I did like the concept. She was the only girl who was rushing a frat, which is a fraternity. If you don't know, there's fraternities and sororities, which is Greek life. Sororities are for females, fraternities are for males. But she was rushing a fraternity with a secret agenda to basically expose why frats are bad and the guys in frats and everything. So I felt like that part was the cliche part. But overall, I did enjoy it. The guys were hysterical. I really loved all the guys in this book. They were so funny. The romance did bother me because it was very predictable with the romance. But just the college life, the Greek life, I felt like they did that really well in this book. Even the academics, like her going to lecture at 9 o'clock in the morning, and she went to bed like at 2 a.m. the last night. I felt that was like really not predictable. It was very like good, and it really showed college life. So there are negatives and positives to this book. It depends on what you like, but I would definitely be careful going into this book if you are not one who likes political, because this is definitely very political. I will reread it again. It just definitely bothered me with the political side of things. Okay, getting to a good book, I read Cold by Tijin. Oh, guys, this was so good. I gave it a 5 out of 5. I should have given it more. Cole is a new book boyfriend. Added him to my list. So good. I'm quoting right now from my Goodreads. I said Tijin is slaying the game, because she totally did with this book. I love seeing Cole's perspective, and Addison is so spunky. Like, she's so sarcastic. and I loved her in this book. And this is a mafia romance, so I've never read one before, so this was my first mafia romance book. It was just really, really good. And I know just from Peace Love Books, I think she gave it a 3. She wasn't really happy with it, but honestly, I don't see how this book could have done wrong. Like, I loved this book. This book was just so good, so detailed, just everything. There was so much action. It was very, very fast-paced, so it, like, right off the bat, it, like, starts, but just so good. I really, really enjoyed this book. Then I read As She Fades by Abby Glines. This disappointed me. I gave it a 3 out of 5. I was expecting a lot more from Abby Glines. So there were 2 parts of this book, and I'm not going to spoil it all, but the first part, I loved the first part, and I felt like Abby should have stuck with that. Instead, she took it in another direction, and she added amnesia, and the second part was like the complete opposite of the first part, and I hated the second part. Like, the second part drove me nuts, and I just hated it. Like, it was horrible. I just thought she should have stuck with the first plot, and it would have been a perfect book. Like, I would have really, really enjoyed it. But she just ruined it for me with the whole amnesia. Like, I don't know why. I just hate books with amnesia because they're so cliche. And it's like, oh, I'm going to fall for the person who tells me everything about my life, blah, 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 blah. And, oh, there's this bad girl that's going to come up to me and change my mind about everything. Like, it just bothers me. Like, I don't really like amnesia as a trope, if that makes sense. But, yeah, it was good. It definitely also takes place in college, so this is more of the new adult side as well. It just wasn't great. And then we have Avalanche by Cambria Hebert. And just take a second to look at this cover. This cover is so pretty. And there's a dog. And the back's pretty too. The back has like the mountains. But I really, really enjoyed this book. I gave this a 5 out of 5. And also, going back to Jess's review, she didn't like it, but I loved it instead. I really love this. So this was like on my mob kick, like my mafia kick. So I think I read this after Cole, or like 2 books after Cole. But this is primarily a ski resort novel. So she sees her, I don't want to spoil it. Okay, yeah, so I'm not going to say that. So she sees someone murdered, so she goes into witness protection. But the people that murdered that someone that she saw still find her. So she ends up escaping to this family vacation place that she went to, which is Bear Paw Resort. And she fell in love. I forgot how young she was when she went. She fell in love when she was there. Why can't I remember his name? I really cannot remember his name. This is very sad. So I forgot Bellamy was the girl. I forgot the guy's name. It's gonna drive me nuts. Liam. So she liked Liam, or kind of fell in love with him, and they left. They went separate paths, whatever. So I really liked this book. It was definitely fast paced. So if you like fast paced, do this. It wasn't as good as her #nerd series, but this book was a very promising start to a series, and so good. I loved the mafia addition to it because it was kind of added in there, and you can tell that she's going to add on top of that for the next couple books. So I feel like it's going to be kind of like the nerd series where she writes a couple books about them and then a couple books about probably his best friend and everything going on, but I really did enjoy this book. And then I read The Game Can't Love You Back by Carol Kozo. This comes out, all it says is May 2018, so I don't know an exact date, but I ended up trading for this on Twitter, and this is an ARC, if you guys can't tell. And I love this book. So surprising. I thought I was going to give it a 3 or 4. I give this a 5 out of 5, guys. That is phenomenal. Definitely reminds me of Catching Jordan. I talked about that a lot on my channel. That one is where it's an only girl football player. She is the pitcher on an all-boys baseball team. So there's a whole background to it. But what happens is 2 schools combine, so it's kind of like tryouts again. And there's this other pitcher who obviously she's gonna fall in love with eventually. But it's a hate to love relationship. And it was just very interesting to see the two sides of the characters, and each chapter started at the beginning of the day, kind of, so you saw like his perspective and then her perspective. But it was cool to see the mechanics of baseball, and I really enjoyed this book so much. Definitely recommend it if you're into this book. It was just really good, and the writing was really good. I don't know if this is her first book. Maybe not, but definitely read this book. And the last two books I read was Carter Reed 1 and Carter Reed 2. I do have a lot to say about these books as well. So these are both mafia romance books as well. Technically, you're supposed to read the Carter Reed series before you read Cole. Technically. But I read Cole first and then Carter Reed because I didn't really know about that. They're both by Tijim. So the first one I gave a 3 out of 5 and the second one I gave a 4 out of 5. And so reason is, first book I liked, but it definitely was very slow. It built up the thing and I was kind of like, it was okay. But the second book was a lot better. But I kept comparing this to Cole's book. Like, the second book had all the action, had all the drama, and everything happening in the second book. But when you compare it to Cole's book was just so much better. And I just really connected more with those characters than I did here. But I did like how you got to see the background information on here, and you got to see a lot of, like, I guess, the background stuff that's happening and to build a series. But it just didn't fully do it for me, which disappointed me because I love Cole, so I wanted to love Carter Reed as well. But I just didn't feel connected to him as much. He felt more of like an enigma, if that makes sense. So yeah, it was good. But yeah, overall, my reading month was a good success. I really loved a lot of these books I read, and I hope you guys are getting some good recommendations from what I read, because I have a problem of buying too many books and reading too many books. So yeah, that's it, guys. If you had any books you read this month that you want to recommend, leave a comment down below, and I hope you guys subscribe to my channel. Bye!